What's good, everybody? What's going on, man? It's Stephen Qualls II, aka Mr. Qualified. It's your boy. And we're back for another episode of the Wright Quality Podcast. And I'm so excited. Friends, co-host, introduce yourself so we can get right into the good stuff.
Ashley Wright the first installment of the Ashley Wright era.
Great way of putting it. Pretty sure, yeah, Miguel Brown, the first installment of that one as well.
This is indeed first installment is going to be the name of this episode, guys. Glad we got that out the way early. Cool. Bam. No, but we got a lot of really interesting topics today, so really excited to get into them. But we will start with this was kind of random, but it's just been part of the conversation I've been hearing as the season has been going on. But I feel like we talk about players either being in their prime or past it, or players like entering it. For example, like Gail, me and you are really excited about Ant, and he's in year 3, this year 3 or 4, but not anywhere near, his prime yet, but still seeing him climb the ranks is really interesting. Seeing somebody like Shea be on the cusp of that, but seeing players in their prime like Giannis, Tatum, Booker, players like that, seeing them in their prime right now is really interesting as well. What are the giveaways or what are the things you look for to identify when a player has reached their prime?
I think when their effectiveness has gone up and they don't have to be the focal point, but one of the focal points of their team, whether it be on the offensive or defensive side. And that talent that they've developed in their career has helped their team also succeed. So what we're seeing from Shea, what we're seeing from Anthony Edwards, that's when a player is like either knocking on the door or in their prime for sure, is when their impact is truly adding to the success of their team.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It was a tough question for me to rack my head around. I usually go with like when I start to tell when someone's out of their prime, which is like they start to dunk less, start to shoot more perimeter threes. But like when someone's in their prime, I think a key stat for me is like their free throws per game really go through the roof. They start to figure out how to manipulate the game for them the most. Like James Harden going from OKC to Houston, he really gamed the system. And he was like, oh, now I'm going to up my average from maybe 3-4 attempts a game to like 10 to 12, like something insane like that. Like guys start to figure out what plays into their advantage more. And then they start to get those easier buckets where they can get like 10 and 12 at the line, and then the next 20 kind of come along the course of the game. They don't have to force it as much. So I think for me, like that's a real, nerd analyst way to think of when someone's in their prime. Like I remember Jimmy Butler got to a point where like he got very efficient at getting to the line more. And then it's, Ant now. Shea is starting to find a way to game the refs a little bit more this year. So it's like they're starting to just get that pace, that comfortability to just kind of like get it when they need to. And now, it's less of a force of like, oh, I have to get like 30 just by getting shots up.
Yeah, no, y'all both made really good points, and I really feel like it's a combination. So like it's the effectiveness. But Gail, I think your point to me might be the most key is because you become more effective the more you learn the game, the better you know the game, and not just so much the finesse of the refs, but really understanding the game of basketball at a high level. Like whenever we see players in their prime, it's even knowing when you learn how and when to take over a game, when you learn how and when to communicate with certain teammates the same, like a particular way, whichever way they need. I think that's for me when we see somebody in their prime. But then also I think it's interesting because a prime could be long. Like somebody could technically be in their prime for, let's say, a decade. Like I think Bron's the standard case of that. But like you can be in your prime for a long period of time because of the mental aspect of it. But I think when we talk about the physical aspect of it, I think that's the peak. And we don't really talk about peaks a lot in basketball. We usually use the word primes, but I think peaks are also extremely important because I think everybody knows that Bron's peak was Miami, basically. Like
Mm-hmm.
those 4 years arguably are, his best years in the league. I believe that's when he won back to back, right? No? Yes, no?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
then he had a second peak,
Jumping,
like
right.
jumping
Cleveland,
over.
LA, when he starts to
Yeah.
figure out how to shoot a three, you know?
Yeah.
And when he's 40 and he learns how to shoot a free throw, it's like,
It's
oh,
no, it's crazy. Yeah, Bron has multiple peaks, so he's a special case study in that regard. But yeah, no. So what's funny was the original reason that question came to mind was because there was I was having a conversation, and this was of course a conversation between a Bucks fan and a Celtics fan, and so I forgot exactly what the conversation was about, but I got to the point where I essentially said I didn't say that the Celtics and more specifically Tatum and Brown were like on a time, like they were on a time crunch, but I said that I don't think their window is much longer to be considered favorites and to kind of have like not an easy walkthrough, but have a relatively confident path to the chip the way they have, in the last couple of years. And somebody, the Celtics fan essentially argued that they were just hitting their prime, that Tatum and Brown were just hitting their prime, and that the Celtics, in his mind, were considered to be ahead of schedule. I disagree, but I'm interested on you all's thoughts about the prime part, and then also specifically for that team. Do you feel like they're ahead of schedule or on schedule? That was a lot. I know that was a lot.
Yeah. No. The first question was, are they in their prime now?
Or are they
Right?
just hitting it? Are they just hitting their
Are
prime?
they just hitting their prime? I could see the case for that, especially given age, how young they are, and I could see the case for being ahead of schedule. But I think the way that they've been performing since they got into the league, in some ways they're behind schedule. So they were ahead of schedule those first couple of years, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals. Kyrie was injured, whatever. But the standards now, because we've grown accustomed to seeing them get so far and make those playoff runs, the standards are higher for them. So do I think they're ahead of schedule at this point? No. They're where they need to be. And we're waiting for them to get over the hump. It's difficult, yes. But I don't think they're ahead of schedule. I think they're where they need to be. As far as being in their prime or just starting their prime, that's a tough one. I don't think I would say that either. For the simple fact that I think their prime started, I would say, when they beat Brooklyn. I think that was the entry of their prime. When they beat Brooklyn the way that they did, and we saw the growth of those two, and we're like, they can do some big things. That's when it happened for me. That's when it happened.
I very much agree with that. I think that's a great starting point for their prime. I'd agree. Gail, any other thoughts?
I think they're behind schedule. I think they have plateaued, not peaked. There's a difference between like, oh yeah, like this is their peak. This is only the beginning of what they can do. I think one half of that equation has a little bit more grace in their side, and I think that's Jason Tatum because he is the guy. But I think for Jaylen Brown, we're at a point where it's like we were already talking like we're gonna give this guy 300 mil, and they bit the bullet and paid this man 300 mil. Whether we see him grow into a player that is, better than what he is, do you think that we have seen the best version of Jaylen Brown? I'm going to say yes. I don't think that there's anything else in his game that tells me that there is this extra layer that he's like, oh, wow. Like, I mean, he's an already proficient three-point shooter, proficient defender, better ball handler. I guess we've heard it, that's the next evolution, but it's like, is that even what's needed there? It's like, I really do think that they, the two wing theory, like this is the year to see if it works. But if not, I mean, maybe it's a package that you have to hit Philly up for and like find a big down there to, fill that void. Or I don't know. I just feel like the Boston experiment, it feels like Milwaukee in the olden days where it's like great to be the 1 seed, great to, dominate the regular season, but like where are the rings. So that's at least my perspective. I don't think that, it's not like Wemby where it's like, oh, wait until he, figures out the game. I feel like Jaylen Brown has figured out the game. It's just that, that's been the thing. Like, can they be consistent on a night to night basis? And I don't think that that's the formula they have in Boston. It's like you take a night, I take a night type of thing. And then that's like kind of the recipe of their success. It's like anybody can get it on a certain night.
Yeah, I really think that the plateau versus peak argument is interesting, and I don't disagree. Actually, you made good points though. There's an aspect to where you don't want to downplay what they have accomplished by saying that they should have accomplished more, right? Because it's never a guarantee. It's never a given. And there is also grace because it's not like I think you could only look at the last 2 years and say that these are situations they're supposed to be here. These are moments they're supposed to have. But what I do look at is if you go back to the bubble, right? Kyrie's gone by that point, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's just that's when it officially becomes Tatum's team, really. So Tatum, Brown, Horford, Smart, you have that core. And they make the Eastern Conference Finals, right? Against Miami, and they lose in the bubble. The main thing I remember is that game 1 block by Bam, which I think really kind of set the tone in terms of just Miami having a little bit of that extra in that series to get past, and they just looked really dominant in the bubble that year in particular. You come back the next year, and Jaylen Brown was injured, if I'm not mistaken. I think Jaylen Brown got injured, and they played the Nets. Yeah, that was the first. That was Harden with the Nets that they played in 21, but Brown was out, and I think it was a gentleman's sweep, and I think Tatum got 40 and got him a game, but hard to do that when your second best player is out of commission. So come back 2022, that's the series against us. I will hold back my take on how I feel if Middleton never got injured. Nonetheless, they won. They came out the series, right? And it was a tough, like they barely got out of the series with Miami, but nonetheless, they get to the finals, shit the bed, boom. They out in 2022. Last year, get to the conference finals again, lose to that same Miami team that has their number. So there's grace, yes, but also this ain't y'all first time around the rodeo. Y'all done got over literally every other hump but the championship, right? So when people are making these claims, I would hear arguments for Tatum being a top 5 player in the league, right? But what does that mean as more time goes on if he doesn't have rings to show for it? Any other player that's in this position, like that. It's not that I want to put scrutiny on a player, but we see other players get the same scrutiny, or we see other players be like, oh, well, if we're going to look at the bubble championship a particular way, if we're going to look at certain people having a 1 ring a particular way, we gotta apply that to all these players then. So when that conversation came up, I just felt like, there's bias, obviously, but even looking at it unbiased, I think the Celtics are really in a really interesting position. And I agree, Gil. I think that they're ahead of schedule in the sense that you would ideally think that since they have just entered their primes, like they're going to be playing at a high level. So that's going to give you a shot, right? The only issue is with growing parity in the league, who's to say that? And like teams are trying to get better every year. So there's no guarantee. And while the East is still weaker than the West, there's just no guarantee that you'll be able to run through the East every single year, given a healthy East. So I don't know. It's really interesting. I think if it's going to be any year, to be completely honest, this would be the one. This would have to be the one for them, speaking as an unbiased fan.
And how many guys you have to ship out that aren't Tatum and Brown until you see that maybe this is, where we get. Maybe we are the Toronto Raptors of the 2020s,
Oh, that was my last point.
He got a ring though, so
Yeah.
it's
So
But they blew up the duo.
they did.
Mhm.
Interesting. Well, we spent way too much time talking about the Celtics, but no, nonetheless, between primes and things like that, those are just a lot of things to consider. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up at the end of the season. But next topic, next segment. I've been like sitting on this for like a month. And it just hasn't fit in the timetable of what we've been recording about, like with the Super Bowl and everything. But I forgot why it became a thing. Maybe like since Jokic has been Jokic, it's been this thing of how good, second round picks have been. And of course that always starts the conversation of, who are the best or most memorable second round picks in the NBA. And so I have challenged us to come up with the top 10 list of the best second round picks of all time in the association. Um, I do not have my official list of 10, but I do have a player pool list that we can throw out these names and we can figure out who stays, who goes, and go from there.
Bet I like that format more. Anyway.
All right. So
Jeff Horner.
you said what?
We'll get there.
Okay, so just some names to throw out here for second round picks. Chris Middleton, Gilbert Arenas. Well, Jokic, I hope all y'all will probably know that Jokic is one. But anyway, Jokic, Middleton, Gilbert Arenas, Paul Millsap,
Mhm.
Mark Gasol, Draymond, Dennis Rodman,
Mhm.
Manu, Rashard Lewis,
Mhm.
Carlos Boozer, Kyle Korver, Trevor Ariza, Lou Williams, Goran Dragic, Isaiah Thomas, Montrezl Harrell, and Malcolm Brogdon are the names that I have.
Alex English on there too.
Okay, are we going back? Because if we go back, who coach?
Tony Kukoc, yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Second
Yeah.
round. Mo Cheeks.
Yeah, Maurice.
But Maurice.
Ah.
But but second round. There's a few other old school players second round that I guess it depends on where we get with this list, but if they make it, they make it. But how y'all feeling? Who are some automatics that are going to be in that 10, regardless of order?
I think obviously number one is clear with Nicola. I think he's the best second rounder ever.
Ever.
Of all time.
Number two is where it gets tricky because I love Manu.
Right.
And I think you just have to respect what Dre was able to do in Golden State, He was a focal point. He really was. The way he's able to distribute, the passion that he brings, the emotion. It gets wild sometimes, but
wait. So you saying Draymond is a 2 for you, or you think he should be 2, or he's just in there?
He's in there.
Okay.
I think Dre's top 5. I think I have Manu 2 and Dennis Rodman 3.
Okay, I'll take that.
Say Rodman's up there.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I think just Manu between Dennis Rodman's tough though too, because like Rodman was a focal point. Well, I mean, you got 2 in Detroit and you got a couple more in Chicago, so it's like
Manu was doing what he was doing also as a sixth man.
That part,
he was playing starter basketball as a sixth man.
Going against Kobe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's why I'm thinking Manu 2, Rodman 3, and then oh god, Draymond 4.
Oh, you moving him up from 5?
Right. I love Gilbert Arenas, but no rings, no nada.
So Draymond's 4?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's played too good of defense. I mean, he was over on the sideline
hey, that was crazy.
Whatever.
No, he's lost it, bro. He's lost it, bro.
I thought he was about to start barking or something. Like, what is going on with you? It looked like he bite people.
This is
dog for real. That was dog.
No, but what was he doing? Somebody break it down to me.
I tried to understand it. I thought he was doing one of these, but then it was just it was going 4 fingers, and he was like, he was like snarling. Like What part of the game was it? Because I missed this coverage.
So this
I
was in
saw
the
it afterwards.
so crazy enough. This is in the fourth quarter. It's like 6 minutes left, mind you. Golden State is up by like 9 at this point, and they
After he
end up
pulled the
losing by
bellow,
5. And they end up losing by 5.
I know. And Ty Lue was like, he said he was gonna.
Oh yeah, Ty Lue got ejected. I think
Talking about
Ty
the
Lue got
refs,
ejected.
she asked refs. So where's James? So I kick him in the face or something like dog. Isaiah Stewart getting arrested. Like,
Oh my gosh.
all right, not to go on tangents, but
This is
what
crazy.
what is going on? What is going on?
I don't know what's going on in the league, bro. This is pretty wild.
Second round picks, and we'll get there. That's the teaser for to get to the end of the
Yes.
pod. So Jeff Hornacek is definitely, he's there, right?
He's
Where?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So who's 5? Who's 5 is the question.
So we said Nicola, Manu, Dennis, Dre. We're looking for 5.
It might have to be Kukoc, right?
Kukoc. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Steven Jackson did say he was better than Manu, so.
All right, Steven. We'll go with Tony Kukoc at 5.
Yeah.
6.
If Isaiah Thomas had a longer career,
Yeah.
like he was in MVP talks, and then Boston said we're gonna play you through it,
and then shipped him off, and nothing was the same.
That like he deserved far better than what, like, seeing him crying saying they didn't believe in me, man. That is still one of the toughest clips, because like he still did have it. They just kind of did him up. Once he said Brinks truck, they said Cleveland's got that one.
Yeah.
Chris Middleton?
I do feel like at the end of the list at 10 should be Gilbert. He should still get some love, but he's.
You think he's 10?
I do.
He was one of the coldest, man. I don't know what was in his drink throughout the mid 2000s, but
yeah, no, that little 3-4 year run he had once he got to Washington.
God, up until then, he was hooping.
No, that he talks about that a lot. Like, I watch a lot of Gil's Arena as well, but like he's very open about this. And like, if not for that happening, I genuinely feel like into like the early 2010s, I don't know if he would have stayed with Washington or not, but he probably would have ended up leaving like once Wall got there. If he had found another spot and was still like,
he was hooping in dress shoes.
No, Hibachi for real, bro. Like one of for me, I feel like that was one of the first like dudes in the league where I'm like, oh, he's just a bucket. Like he's just a bucket. Like
it was something like he's got to be on the list. Ashley,
if he's
on the list.
If he's 10, I'm interested to see who's before him. But I get that we're past all the people who have like rings, so now it gets interesting.
Not yet, there, Bucko.
Okay.
Chris Middleton has something to say about that.
Where is he?
He's 6?
He's not right after Kukoc, is he?
He's like 9.
Is he better than Marc Gasol?
He's like 9. Marcus. Is he better?
Wait, so is he only better than Gil? Wait. Is he only better than Gil because he got a ring?
No, also mid-post isolation game, he's up there statistically in the prime too. Like it was him, Dirk, and Kobe in the mid-range contested era, and you can fight the stats on that one.
Mm-hmm.
That he was. I remember Boston, Chris Middleton. Like Giannis never showed up, and it was always Chris just fighting for his life. He's like, Giannis, where are you? Mid-fade and 1-3 to take us in overtime. Giannis, game 7. I have half a hammy. Please.
Hey, yo, not half a hammy is crazy.
It fell off the bone. It was one of the worst. Like that dog. I got a ride for my guy Chris. Like he's been tough for a minute. Like it's just that he's stuck in Milwaukee. No one watches us. Let's be real. Like Sacramento. Like I was watching Boogie Cousins on my shitty ass iPad Pro in high school. I was like illegal streaming, watching the Kings. I'm like, man, who watches that? Who watches this team? Darren Collison is rotting over in Sacramento.
Hey, yo.
Ty Lawson is catching DUIs for good reason. He's like,
those are names that I forgot about.
Oh
Terrence
man,
Robinson. Yeah, I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah.
Omri Caspi. I was a deep Sacramento Kings watcher. I
Mhm.
loved Boogie's game. Soft touch, great passer.
Mhm.
I'm crying. Okay, we still haven't decided who's 6 yet because I don't think it's Middleton. He's not
I
6.
don't either.
Nah, he's around 9.
I'm
He's
giving it to Mark Gasol.
Oh, he does have a ring, doesn't he?
yeah. And he was holding it down in Memphis for a minute. Also, shouts out, not watched, never on prime time. All I saw was Zebo. It's the last time I think I remember they were on prime time.
Mike Conley, they got to the playoffs a couple times. They just ran up on the Spurs.
Yeah, they were an overachieving team every year.
They were. They really were.
If Gasol is 6, I'm not gonna lie. I think Gilbert has to be 7. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Where does Danny Green fit on this list? Most threes in NBA Finals history.
I don't think he's on the list for me.
He's not.
No, he isn't. I'm just throwing out stats, throwing out accolades. Jamal Crawford, I don't think he's on this list. Was he a first round pick though?
I think he might have been first round.
Why does he feel like?
Okay, you know what? I'm cool with Gil because I don't know if I'll put Lou Will ahead of Gil.
Where does Jalen Brunson fit on this list? It is early, people. It is very early, but he's making a case.
Damn, I forgot Brunson was second round.
Because I'm not throwing Jeremy Grant on this list.
No.
Hassan Whiteside, love him to death. He's not making it on this list. Just retired. Shouts out Hassan Whiteside, not top 10 in NBA history. DeAndre Jordan, funny enough, has a ring.
DeAndre Jordan does have a ring. He's not making this list.
That is not. Yeah, that's not a
DPOY.
as the kids would say.
Okay, so okay, so we had 8. Millsap, Lou Will,
Michael Red's on this list.
Oh, is he a second rounder?
Second rounder, Olympic gold medalist.
I think he most definitely is.
Lou Will is on this list.
Miguel said we're gonna get a buck. He said we're gonna get a buck on this.
Gonna get 2. We're like the Atlanta Hawks when they got 4 All-Stars. We're somehow slipping in 2 of them.
Crying. Okay, so who's 8? Who's after Arenas?
Tony Kukoc was a buck too, so 3. Hell, oh
fair,
my god,
very fair. He was.
Lou Will is on this list.
Is he 8?
Somehow, some way, he's somewhere.
Lou Will over Middleton?
No, you're right. Okay, Chris. I'm comfortable putting Chris here.
Middleton's at 8. We still got Lou Will. We got Millsap. Is Rashard Lewis gonna make the? Yeah, that's what I said, Miguel. But is Rashard Lewis gonna make this list? He may not. He may not, but he's a bucket.
He is a bucket, but I don't. He is a bucket. And he's a respected bucket too.
Respected bucket.
6,
Rashard
7.
Lewis was the truth, bro.
Tied 10.
Felt like a lefty. Felt like a lefty to me always.
Yeah.
Patty Mills FIBA plays on there for me. Patty Mills FIBA, he's like 5.
So okay, so we got Milton at 8. We got 2 more spots.
Paul Millsap has to be on there.
Yeah.
Utah Paul, Atlanta Paul.
Did he get a ring?
He did not get a ring.
I respect it though.
All right, I think 9 is Paul, 10 is Lou, tied with Rashard.
Did Michael Redd make the list?
No, sorry.
No. I respect it, but I don't think he makes the top 10.
I'm substituting Paul Millsap for Michael Redd. Olympic gold is gonna give me that spot over a nice lining.
Gail, look up the career stats, man. Look up the career stats.
All right. I'm sure Michael Redd trounced him in everything. That man was shooting everything in Milwaukee.
All 3 years.
And look at his peak, bro. Like you got how long was it? How long was his peak? Because if you only did it for like 3 or 4 years.
Paul Millsap with Michael Redd comparison. 0 championships each. 16 seasons for Paul Millsap, 12 for Michael Redd. Playoffs played 13 for Paul Millsap. 10 of those were in Atlanta. 3 for Michael Redd. We were awful. All-Star games, Paul Millsap 4. They just cherry picked him in every year. They're like, Al Horford's there, throw Paul Millsap in there too. Michael Redd, okay, Michael Redd's not on this list. All NBA teams, 1 Michael Redd, 0 Paul Millsap. I will say,
Michael can score. He shoots the lights out.
points per game, 19 Michael Redd, Paul Millsap, 13.4. Rebounds per game, 7.1, Michael Redd, 3.8. Assists per game, 2.2, 2.1. We're right there. Steals per game, 1.2, 0.9. Blocks per game, 1.0, 0.1. I'm sure you can guess who. Paul Millsap's on this list.
Yeah, but sorry.
I'm so
Wow,
sorry.
why in my head did he have a much longer career than what he did? How does he hold all of the Bucks stats that he did?
That's how much he shot the ball.
We were just paying cats.
Truly.
We had him surrounded. Come on now. He was surrounded by Dan Gadzarich and Joel Prisbilla. Shouts out Joel Prisbilla, coaches in Wisconsin. Got to keep it respectful. But I mean, come on now. Paul Millsap had much better foundation around him. There was holes in our training facility. When Giannis got here.
Hey, man.
Shouts out Paul Millsap. Great lining.
So
He's up there.
So this is the final list. Jokic at 1, Manu at 2, Rodman at 3, Draymond at 4, Kukoc at 5, Mark Gasol at 6, Gilbert Arenas at 7, Chris Middleton at 8, Paul Millsap at 9, and Lou Will / Rashard Lewis at 10.
Flat IT. He's hanging on there like he's hanging on LeBron.
Like you said, if he had a longer career, easily would have been fighting for that 10 spot. Easily would have been right there. But yeah, wow. Not second round picks really. I mean, they don't come around that often. So I think this list just goes to show that you got some pretty impactful second round picks that have left a large impact on the league. So yeah. Last thing we can do to wrap it up. Looking at where the standings are now in both conferences, any predictions or any assumptions about what may happen after the All-Star break? Right now, at least in the East, Boston is pretty much running away with the number 1 seed. So the race is really 4-2, I guess. I personally don't see Cleveland holding on to it. I don't know. It would be really surprising for me to see them keep this up for the rest of the season. If they do it, great. I would be a bit surprised by it. I think Milwaukee hits a stride somewhere near the end of the season that pushes them to 2. Although Milwaukee does have probably the toughest schedule left after the All-Star break, something I was looking at. So if we gonna gel, it needs to happen soon. But I still think we'll end up overtaking them for 2. I think the Knicks kind of stay in that middle range, but they could float anywhere from 4 to 6, depending on if they string together enough losses or whatever the case may be, wins or losses, all depends. But in terms of after that, I think Indy will wrap up that final 6. I think 6 through 3, potentially 2, are just going to be battling to see where they'll fit. I don't think the play-in for the East is exciting at all. I mean, you always got to respect Miami, and it seems like they'll be in the play-in. But Orlando, I think Orlando's plateaued this season. Not gonna lie.
Every year they always start off hot.
I think they'll stay middling. Brooklyn's a joke. Atlanta's a joke. Toronto's a joke. They're just there, really. So
sad. So many pieces that could have been shipped.
Oh, Bulls there too, but yeah.
Oh, talk about pieces that could have been shipped.
Yeah. Oddly enough, though, the Bulls are still kind of competitive. I mean, Kobe White's having an amazing season. Was there.
Did they beat Cleveland last night?
No, but it was a close game.
Yeah, they were winning for a while.
To the end, yeah. But yeah, that's the East, and I kind of took that conference over. But thoughts on the East, and then y'all can give me y'all takes on the West as well.
I agree with what you said about the East, especially about Cleveland not really holding on to that second spot. Everything else I think stays the same. If somehow, some way, Joel is able to make a return, I think they're higher than the 5th seed. But other than that, yeah, you hit the nail on the head.
I think Toronto will make something shake. Let's go to the West.
Okay.
Shake is in get into the play-in?
Maybe. I have no clue. The East is a mess. That's what I'm saying. Let's get to the West.
Fair enough.
Miracles can happen. Who cares? The West looks fun.
But
Oh,
for
the
me,
West is so fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's get into the nitty gritty.
I don't see Minnesota holding on to number one in the West.
Ooh.
I don't. I don't. I don't.
Ooh. Why?
OKC,
Hmm?
OKC, Denver.
No, OKC, yeah, but I think Denver sneaks into the top three. And I think Minnesota is the team that takes the fall for that. So
You think the Clippers stay?
yeah, I really do. They're in their stride. They're all veterans. They're all old, as Anthony allegedly put it. So I do think that they have the maturity to hit a run and continue that momentum into the second half of the season. I think Dallas switches spots with New Orleans for 6 and 7. I don't think Dallas will be a play-in team. I think they'll be higher than that 6 seed. But that's about it for me. Sacramento might sneak out of that play-in. We'll see.
Sacramento's having an odd year. I
They
mean,
are.
Fox is playing
Yeah.
great and Sabonis is playing great, but they aren't putting together wins at
Mm-hmm.
all. And I mean, granted, they've lost to, I mean, some top teams. So I wouldn't say they've been dropping a lot of games to like subpar teams, but I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they just don't look as scary as they did last year. Nowhere near it. And I don't know if that changes. Maybe Fox has a second gear. Maybe they hit a stride, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it's the same. It's not the same danger that you felt last year with Sacramento. So I think they kind of stay in the play-in, but unless they stay in this 8 and 7 range and get New Orleans, uh, either way, I don't even know if I like them against the 1 or 2 seed they may have to play. So
Exactly. Yeah.
so yeah, it's tough. I agree with you actually. I do see Dallas being out of the play-in. Phoenix is so interesting.
They're finicky.
Because
Yeah,
like Phoenix could either jump into this top 4, potentially this top 3, depending on how like games play out, or they could fall into the play-in, depending on health of their stars, things of that nature. Now, granted, they made some solid moves at the deadline, so one would think that maybe having shored some things up, if they continue on this stride, they might be able to push themselves into the top 4. Especially if you look at a Denver and they're like, we're going to focus on health for the playoffs. So if that means having to sit some starters and sit some guys, we'll take some losses because we know at full strength, we feel confident against anybody. But yeah, I don't know. I think Minnesota can hold on to it though, Ash. I think that's the only place I really, really disagree. Their defense is really good.
It
Like,
is.
it's
It is.
amazing. And if nothing else, I trust Ant to carry the offensive load. I trust Cat to be a relatively reliable second option. And if their defense stays number one, I mean, it's hard to beat them. Like they don't
Mhm.
lose a lot of games where like it's easy for the other opponent. And they fared well against all these teams in the top, in the top 4. So I don't know. Like unless there's a major injury, God forbid, or unless they just really hit some kind of odd dud, I think they stay. I think they're that
I'll
legit.
put it this. I'll put it this way. I wouldn't be surprised if they stayed. I just something's telling me it won't be the case.
Not mad at it. Not mad at it. Yeah.
yeah. I've been sitting thinking for a minute. I think the script makers got it like this. Hear me out. Timberwolves stay 1. I work with my brain here. Warriors are in the play-in, but they win out. I think they stay at that 10. They end up beating the Pelicans, who are going to slip to that 9. They end up playing the Lakers in the play-in, like to get in. I think they beat the Lakers. And then I think you get Timberwolves, Warriors first round.
Sheesh.
Shouts out Barflante, though, greatest Timberwolves fan that has ever existed. This is prophecy, so I think that stays. Then I think OKC stays 2. I think they get the Kings at 7.
Ooh.
I think that'd be a good first round matchup.
So you got the Lakers bounced. Like,
I got the Lakers bounced. I think things don't go right for them. I think age takes a turn for the worse for them. And I think so does for the Clippers, but in the sense that they just dropped to 4, and then you get Clippers Suns first round, which is going to be a firefight. And then you're stuck with Nuggets Mavs 3-6 seed. And that would be a firefight too. I think if the readers could hear me, I think that's best case scenario for how this playoffs could go. And I think that's most fun for all NBA fans, like seeing what it looks like now. That's what I at least hope for, and that's what I at least see playing out. I don't know what strength of schedules look like, but I think we can definitely just like if the Jazz are smart, they're not trying to be like they were last year. They're playing for a draft pick. The Rockets don't have to overachieve. Grizzlies shut it down. Trailblazers and Spurs are dead in the water. So I think that's how it plays out. I think the Warriors don't really get out of that 10 spot. And even if they do, like, I think they're going for health by the time they get there. But yeah, I think that's how it shakes out. I think it doesn't shift too much, but first round of the playoffs for the West would be a firefight if those turn out to be the matchups.
That's not far-fetched.
It's not, man.
It'd be fun. I think that those are at least the best matchups. If the NBA, if Adam Silver puts pen on paper and says today, hey, LeBron, you might want to be bounced so you can have a reason to go meet Bronny somewhere else. This might be the year. So,
yeah, yeesh.
Yeah. So, man, I can't wait. Post All-Star break's gonna be fun.
Okay, I have one last very nerd, very irrelevant, doesn't matter much basketball question.
Very ready.
It's about centers. Which center are you taking and why? Gobert or Lopez? Brook Lopez, that is, of course. Respect to Rolo, but we're talking about Brook.
Right now, today? Prime for prime?
Sure.
Rudy. Defense.
I think Brook gives you 2016 Rudy Gobert interior defense, but also 2016 Rudy Gobert perimeter defense, while also being able to shoot the 3 ball. Like, I think for the Bucks, I'm going to take Brook because he just fits more. Having Rudy and Giannis doesn't make sense. But like, if I'm taking a player from base and being like, I'm starting my team from scratch, I think early Rudy Gobert is a better start off point than, Brook Lopez, even though Brook was a beast.
Yeah, I was thinking the latter in your explanation, taking a player and starting my own franchise. For me.
Yeah, when I was watching Wolves Clippers, and they were just talking about the defense, talking about Gobert and just how difficult he makes shots inside. But I also thought about the fact that Gobert seems so limited offensively that he doesn't seem like a threat offensively for real. Like he doesn't have his own bag. Like you have to create shots for Gobert. Like he's not creating his own shots. Whereas I guess you could say it's the same with Brook, but at least there's a different threat. But Brook also has the ability to do kind of like a half post up and can create his own shot. But I guess it would come down to, is Gobert that much better defensively than Brook? And that much better is strong, but I do think he is still the better defender. And I think that, to your point, Gail, I think that Brook looks as good as he looks because of fit, not to take away from his talent, but he wouldn't fit every team the way. I mean, every team could use a Gobert in some capacity. Like,
I'll say it's a hard question to ask in 2024 because like starter Brook, like in Brooklyn was like, post threat, offensive scorer, like, but not really defensive minded, like at all. He was like the played off the floor type. Rudy Gobert, like coming out was like, raw, athletic, long center that's gonna, rim run and block shots. So it's like, even like for when they first came out, it's like it's tough to really compare. And then you go in to the middle of their careers, and it's like, okay, Brooke is starting to be an outside shooter and paint presence, and then like Rudy was at the point where he's in LA getting ran off the floor by Mr. Man over there, right? It's like, and now we're at a point where it's like, Brooke is having a defensive renaissance off back surgery, post 35, 7-footer, and Rudy Gobert is having his best perimeter defensive year since ever. It's just like, give me whoever's having a better year at the time, because both their career arcs are wild, to say the least. Like, both have gone like up and up in different directions. Like,
yeah.
But both. That's a very good question, though.
Yeah, it is a good question.
Well, thank you guys. I thought so. But that's it, man. Like I said, a lot of different segments, a lot of good conversation, a lot of good talk this episode. Wanted to give y'all something to hold over, because we know when this drops, we'll be in that little lull before the games return. Since they finally gave players that week off around All-Star break. But yeah, we'll be back, and this second part of the season is going to be something crazy. Bit of a teaser. I just want to let y'all know. I don't know when we're doing it. We may wait till after the NBA season. Maybe not. Depends on how y'all feel. But I think that we should tackle the idea of trying to figure out who the GOAT athlete is.
The GOAT athlete.
Yes.
So we're going to go to the decathlon books.
Right.
Sure. I mean,
all
sports are considered. All athletes are considered. How can you determine the GOAT athlete? What's even the criteria for something like that?
The GOAT athlete? We're looking for best athlete or best winner. What do we? Because we could go.
I'm thinking more on the winner side.
Okay, because I'll say best athlete is Victor Wembanyama, born and raised since birth. That man is touching the bottom of his feet at 7'5". Is the best athlete I've ever seen. It freak of nature I've seen in my life. Victor Wembanyama.
Well, yes, I'm speaking more so. If you were going to say somebody is the GOAT of a sport, think of it in that same realm when we talk about the GOAT athlete ever.
Okay. Noted.
But yes, well, that's something that we'll actually have to prepare for. So can't just bring stuff like that on you all. But in due time, that'll be an episode of its own. But that's it. That's all we got for today. And man, until next time, we'll catch y'all on the next episode. Peace.